Welcome to another episode of 10 with Tom, where we explore faith 10 minutes at a time. I'm Wayne, so it's One with Wayne today, and we're exploring anger and how to understand and process that. I've always been intrigued by Jesus' disciples, people he chose to spend time with him and to train and equip and give an incredible mission to heal the world. And two of his friends were called the sons of thunder, which would imply a little that their father had some anger management issues. And since they were being named after their father, that the two of them had anger management issues. And so I want to ask, what's your anger levels these days? If you just had to take your last week, what would out of 0 to 10, where would you put your anger levels? There's so much to be angry about, right? There are world events to be angry about. We're angry with Vladimir Putin for that matter, but there are local issues to be angry about. The world is not short of things that should stir our passion and get us angry. So what are your anger levels? You may have heard this story, but Michelle and I married for 3 years. I'm on the gold mines. I'm doing a personality test to determine how I deal with stress, right? And the conclusion is that the way I deal with stress is I charge at the stressor, right? So if I'm stressed out, I don't run away. I ramp up and charge. So I took these tests home. Michelle, my wife, did the tests. We just had our firstborn daughter. She was 4 months old. And it turns out that my wife responds to stress in the same way. So stress her out, she ramps up and charges. So we are like two rhinos. So you can imagine, stress us out and we ramp up and charge, and generally at each other, right? And two rhinos charging at each other, you can imagine, is a destructive thing. So we've had to learn over the years. Oh, by the way, in the workplace, the advice for two rhinos on the same team was avoid all personal contact, which I don't think is the best way to deal with it, especially if you're married and share a beautiful child together. So we would need to actually engage. So we've had to work out what to do with our anger, how to understand it, or how to understand stress, which would manifest as fear, and therefore produce a response of anger. We've had to do that. So again, back to your levels of anger. Now, there's a passage of scripture, and on my bookshelf, Tom's bookshelf behind me, but on my bookshelf is a book that has been quite formative for me, and it's by Trevor Hudson, and it's called Journey of the Spirit. And it suggests that to deal with things like anger, we need the help of God's Spirit. But let me point you to a verse that Paul writes, and Paul was an angry man, right? He was angry because the world wasn't perfect, people around him were not perfect, and if he was honest, he was not perfect. And so he was just an angry guy to the degree that he would pursue and arrest and persecute and execute people. So Paul writes, be angry, but do not sin. There's kind of permission to be angry, right? Do not let the sun go down on your anger, and do not make room for the devil. It's permission to be angry, which I think is helpful, because anger is a natural response to stress, to hurt. When we're stressed out, we either ramp up or we run away. And so anger is a natural response. To deny having anger is to deny reality. And there are those who are Christ followers, and if you're a Christ follower, we kind of feel we can't and are not allowed to be angry. So this is quite liberating for me. I hope it is for you. Be angry, but do not sin. So be angry. Acknowledge the anger, because anger suppressed, anger denied, psychologists would say manifest as depression, which is in a sense harm to ourselves. So we're angry, we're not allowed to be angry, so we press it down, we smile at the world, we pretend not to be afraid, we pretend not to be hurt. and then we find ourselves in a dark place where we are hurting ourselves. Anger denied, in a way, produces physical harm to ourselves. Years ago, I met a woman whose husband divorced her, and it was devastating stuff, really. And as we try to work through how she would deal with the incredible anger she felt, she just decided to smile at the world. But what happened is she just bent over. Over a period of a decade, she went from a woman walking upright to a woman literally bent over. And it was anger denied and anger suppressed. So physical manifestations. So again, what are your anger levels, and can you own them? Of course, unchecked anger expressed is like the rhino running over everybody, and that causes damage to everyone else. And there's a difference between anger and hate. You see, anger is be angry, but when anger is nurtured, when anger is fueled, and then when anger is directed at another individual, then it manifests as hate, and hate is destructive, and destructive to everyone around. So there is much to be angry about in this world of ours. And no doubt, if you've lived a little while, you've been hurt, and you have anger, and maybe even you have nurtured it into hate. But here's the encouragement. We need to name our anger, and then we need to express our anger in appropriate ways. The fruit of God's Spirit, one of the fruits is gentleness. And gentleness has been defined as angry always at the right time, never angry at the wrong time. Gentleness is, in a sense, the very means by which we deal, understand, and process our anger. So I want to ask, in this little time of your day and mine, who are you angry with? Plumb the depths of where that anger comes from. Seek to write it down and give it some kind of reference. And then decide either to process that anger through forgiveness, or direct your anger at the person it should be directed at, with gentleness, as it were, if that makes sense. And my sense is, if we simply process even little bits of the anger we harbor in our lives, our hearts, our bodies, and our minds, we will find ourselves standing more upright and living a healthier life. So, who are you angry with? Write it down, write a name down. Where does it come from? And what is the best way for you to express that? It might be something you do on your own, which is forgiveness. It may be something you need to process with another, so that you might no longer harbor hatred towards another. So, let's deal with our anger, shall we? And let's get healthier.
Bing!
I don't know what's going on.
Bing!
Is that perfect? Guys, I'm so irritated with this.
Are you angry?
Angry with?
I'm angry at this. What?